Hi, everybody. Oh, wait. Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Liz DiNardo, and I want to talk to you about my crazy decision of going back to school in my 40s. My mid-40s, that was kind of a tough decision, but it's one that I'm so glad that I made. The route here to social work was kind of circuitous, but all roads really did meet me here at Brockport. I hadn't considered social work for so long because I assumed they just took people's kids away, or at least that's what I had heard. But I was pleasantly surprised to find out that this profession is based on core values that I've always tried to incorporate into my life. They include service, integrity, competence, the pursuit of social justice, recognizing the importance of human relationships, and the inherent dignity and worth of every person. For my advanced year in the program, I chose an internship at CPEP for more than social work experience. For those of you who don't know, CPEP is an acronym for the Psychiatric Emergency Department. In truth, I was pursuing what I hoped would be my healing. I wanted to rewrite the narrative that I had so hardwired into my psyche. Full transparency, CPEP was a term that held a very strong emotional charge for me. While I have not yet needed its services myself, my mother was taken there against her will more times than I can count. I remember she was terrified, and it was never good, and she fought and cried and tried to run away, but they always caught her. As a child, watching her taken from us by police, time after time, I felt too many emotions to name. The feelings were bigger and more complex than I had words for. I didn't exactly know what CPEP entailed, but I knew that I never wanted to find out. My mother's severe and persistent mental illness was a secret we were not allowed to talk about, especially outside of the family. But her nervous breakdowns consisted of psychosis, paranoia, delusions, and a religious preoccupation. The breakdowns began after the birth of each of her 5 children with postpartum depression. When she developed psychosis, the diagnosis changed to schizophrenia, then again later to bipolar disorder. Needless to say, my mother's mental state was often fragile. As a child, I became hyper-attuned to her moods and behaviors. I made it my mission to help her stay well. I looked for warning signs, imagining worst-case scenarios, and I prayed to God that my mom would just stay well. Through the years, my mother sought counseling in addition to her regimen of heavy antipsychotic medications. She attended Al-Anon. She brought us to church twice a week, where we read Bible study and prayed. Slowly, the time between her hospitalizations grew further apart. My mother poured her heart into pursuing healing. The social work field has a term for this. It's recovery. My mom recovered from the scary bouts with psychosis that left her paralyzed and us so frightened as children. It took the birth of her first grandchild to give her all the purpose she needed for the rest of her life. She eventually became strong enough to leave my father. She was never hospitalized for mental health again, but it was my mother's love for her children and grandchildren. That's what kept her going. My mom was my closest friend, and when I struggled with depression and anxiety as an adult, she was there on the phone every day, encouraging me not to give in to those feelings of despair. I learned so much from her. She was such a fighter. She died just before I started this degree program in the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. I had no idea then that I had entered my calling, but I know it now. All the terms I didn't have when I was little, I have since acquired in my studies. Things like adverse childhood experiences, childhood emotional neglect, intergenerational trauma. These words, so powerful, that once held so much shame for me. They are now my pearls. I know that social work is my calling when I greet a patient experiencing psychosis and CPEP with respect and curiosity. I am now the person who is receiving someone else's loved one. I am the person I would have liked my mom to meet. As a result of this life experience, I am not afraid of big feelings or dark secrets. I can hold the space with compassion and a deep and undying belief that as long as you live, you can heal. My mother modeled that for me. She gifted me with her knowledge, and now I continue her work through my life and profession. Thank you.